Hey y'all, it's your girl Key. How y'all doing today? So today we're talking about how to detect when you're in a rut, feeling stuck. So let me just say this from the jump. I'm no doctor, nor am I trying to diagnose anyone. Knowledge is key. Just shedding some light on some things that you yourself can research on the same platforms I'm getting it from. So, what does it mean to feel stuck? Let's jump in. Stuckness can be a vague, ambiguous feeling of something in life not being right. When you notice these feelings, allow yourself some time to clarify what you want to be different. Now, what causes a person to become stuck? Well, when a person experiences traumatic stress, they often have a difficult time disassociating themselves with that stress. The memory gets sealed into their long term memory. So it's like your memory gets stuck first, then you get stuck thereafter. So let me tell y'all how this can apply when in a toxic relationship with someone. So, boom, you will get in a relationship for whatever your reasons are, and it may all be good to start. Then, all of a sudden, and I don't mean literally, you will start to notice some changes. So, side note, back to one of my earlier videos about toxic relationships. We were conditioned to jump into relationships off of physical first. Not saying physical doesn't play a big part in it, because it does. That's what gets us, that's the attraction portion of it. But it may lead to things that we regret later. So it can cause us to be blindsided by who the person actually is. So when this happens in a toxic relationship, we find ourselves stuck, feeling either obligated or feeling as if we need that individual, or vice versa. It's all codependency. But being codependent on one another will create an illusion or a reality of feeling stuck in a rut. So there are a few signs to recognize when you feel stuck. So let's jump into the first one. Every day may seem the same. You might even forget or have trouble remembering what day of the week it is. That's just one thing. The second, you feel like you're just trying to get through another day. We've all had these moments. But the third one, you feel unmotivated. A lot of us can contest to that, I'm telling you. And four, you feel unfulfilled. And five, you want to change, but fear the temporary discomfort that comes with it. So now, what are the things you can do when you're in the fields of this? So let's jump into this one. One, we need to acknowledge the situation at hand. Sometimes people try to stay in denial when they face a tough situation. But we need to reassess the people in our lives. We need to ask ourselves questions like, who are they really? Identify the qualities of that individual. How has it been beneficial to us? How have they've helped us grow? Has this person helped me grow? Have you succeeded at the things that you truly wanted out of life? Do they bring out the best or the worst in you? And from the time you met till now, what have you gained and what have you lost? And does this person truly make you happy? So, once we acknowledge all of those things, here's what we need to do. We need to develop a plan. We need to seek help when necessary from a trusted source. And I can't stress enough, use your teacher, your intuition. Don't go against yourself. Your intuition will not steer you wrong. Then, change what you can. Don't try to go crazy figuring out a whole bunch of stuff. Change what you can change. Doesn't matter how small it is. From there, identify what you can't change, which is very difficult for a lot of us because we like to have control over everything. But we have to understand there are just some things that we just can't control. We have to release that. We have to definitely release that and only worry about the things that we can control. But from there, we need to try to develop coping skills to deal with our feelings in positive ways. Focus on the things that we can gain in these positive ways. So, once we do that, we can pretty much gear ourselves up into moving forward and get on a slow and steady pace. Because remember, slow and steady wins the race. So there are a lot of touchy topics, but one of them that I want to point out is abuse. Abuse is abuse, no matter how you look at it. It's not good by no means. Abuse does not just have to be physical, as we all know, and it is not acceptable. And while it hurts, physical abuse is just very, very traumatizing. But I find that the two main things that really cause long-term damage is mental and emotional abuse. It's very serious and can do more damage than a little. And this can happen for both male and females, as we know. So when we're talking about mental abuse and how it plays a big role on our emotions, leaving people with the feeling of not being able to trust anyone. And it's very hard because we in life can't distinguish who's really good and who's really not in this day and age. You know, it's so much deceit in this world. It's so hard to pinpoint real from fake. But anyway, while we're dealing with that type of stuff, and let me tell you what I find to be interesting. It's just food for the thought. When we're suppressing our emotions and we've been traumatized and we're not able to trust, but yet we're able to jump in bed with someone that we really don't know and be able to trust that situation, it it gives you something to actually think about, you know? It makes you think and take a look at yourself as to, yeah, what am I really doing? There's a disconnect, and this is what most of the world moves off of, you know, and it's just not good. And I just want people to see things from a different perspective. And I'm not saying I'm better than anyone because I've made my own mistakes and I made my own choices, and I've done the same things that I come to you guys and express to you guys. A lot of them I've done myself, you know, but it mental abuse comes in so many different forms, and one of the forms is humiliation. And with that, it may start out with small jabs or insults, you know, like in private, and then become full blown yelling or embarrassment in public before you even realize it. But another one is the verbal insults, insulting your looks, your intelligence, your worth. It doesn't even have to include foul language. It's just to break and wear you down and pretty much lower your self-esteem so that way you become compliant and reliant on that individual and no one else. It's all a form of control. And the other one, I touched on it a tad bit, physical violence. That's all craziness that I'm really not going to jump into because those things are really, really touchy. And while some of us have experienced slight movements of it, and some of us have experienced it on a traumatic level, it's just never good, you know, and it's ultimately not acceptable. And that's just on period. But moving on to controlling behaviors. These type of behaviors aim to alienate you from everyone else in your life, other than them, or other than that that whatever it is, that person, whatever that you're dealing with, so that anyone won't recognize what's going on. But bottom line, most want you to just be dependent on them. And at first, it may seem like they're really invested in your life and your decisions, but it will slowly spiral into them being in total control if you don't nip it in the bud. And a person can also have unpredictable mood swings. They can go from 0 to 100 real quick. And this is usually aimed at a submissive partner who think the reason why you're there is because you need them, only to just know that in all actuality it's a choice. A person will only do what you allow. It's not something you need to accept. You have to know when enough is enough and stand up and put your foot down. It's all about taking back control over you. Some will even pick at your faults. They'll even treat you like a child. And at times when one or more of these behaviors are displayed, they will alienate you from friends and family. And the reason why is because they know they won't be able to get away with the mistreatment if you have supportive friends and family in the picture to challenge these type of behaviors. So this is why they will slowly convince you that others don't appreciate you or value your relationship, leaving you to lose all sense of yourself and only to have them for support. What a better way to manipulate your every behavior. So that's more food for thought. So I say all this to say that sometimes when we think we're in love with someone, it's sometimes difficult to recognize the signs that you're not being treated as well as you should be. Sometimes we need to take a step back. And sometimes we may even have to have a trusted friend to point out some of the red flags. Unacceptable behavior in a relationship, toxic one to boot, can be physical or psychological, and sometimes we can bury the behavior of fear of losing the relationship. We need to know that staying in these type of relationships can be very, very damaging. But it's cool because once we acknowledge what has taken place and plans are put into motion, and we understand that all decisions, not all the decisions that we make in life will be beneficial to us. We got to move on. We got to understand that it's okay. We're not perfect. No one's perfect. You understand? But from that acknowledgement, you can now execute what it is that you truly want. Excuse me, y'all. It's okay to feel ashamed or embarrassed, or even both. Just know that no one can judge you. And yes, people will do it. That's just people. We need to stop worrying about what others think about us. We need to stop allowing others to make decisions for us. Because it's not about anyone but you. So just know that once you recognize it, and you yourself may even have displayed one or more of these behaviors, this does not mean you cannot change. You cannot recognize the problem and change. Change is the one thing that's always available. Forgive and move on. Forgiveness, again, is not just for what's been done, but most importantly, for you. And in the long run, with all the positive, healthy choices you make for yourself, you will get to see the benefits from doing so later on. So remember, y'all, always love you first. Everything else will fall into place. Just stand up for you. Take your power back. Take your peace back. Take your happiness back. And even if you've never felt you even had an ounce of power, peace, or happiness, guess what? Here's your chance to finally say yes to you, even when you thought you couldn't. So remember, guys, love you, keep going, and keep growing. Later, y'all.